Welcome. Now, in section 2, we begin playing with more chords. Country Dance by Czerny uses 3 left-hand chords. I'll play section A and talk through it. Notice the left hand begins in the treble clef. The 1 chord, which repeats. The 5 chord, or the G chord in measure 3. Okay, a quick theory insight here. In naming chords, we number them according to the scale step. So we're in the key of C, therefore we have the 1 chord built on the first step, the 2 chord built on step 2, the 3 chord built on step 3, the 4 chord built on step 4, and the 5 chord, which is our G chord built on step 5 of our scale. That's a long way to jump, isn't it, right? To go from there all the way up to our G. I would need to shift all the way up. It's quite a distance, especially if you're trying to look at the music on the page. So, is there a faster way? We could also count down to the 5 chord from our 1. So we've got 1, 7, 6, 5 chord. That's still a bit of a jump. Or we can play the 5 chord in what's called close position or an inverted position for less movement, less jumping around. So instead of playing the G chord as G, B, D, we're simply going to play B, D, G. It's known as an inversion. We're just reordering the notes for convenience. So I'm going to play back and forth between the C chord and the inverted G chord with B on the bottom. C chord, our inverted G chord, B on the bottom. Try this in your practice until it feels comfortable. Notice the left-hand thumb is staying put because that G is common to both chords. However, fingers 5 and 3 can shift as a unit down to B and D, and then back up to C and E. The second line also begins with a 1 chord and then goes to what we call the 5-7 chord, or the G7 chord. Notice, it uses an F in the middle of the chord. You can read more about the theory behind the 5-7 chord on page 33, or ask your teacher. For now, let's continue with the B section. We've got our 5 chord, a 1 chord, and then softly, a 5 chord, a 1 chord, back to a 5, with a fermata. And our last line, 1 chord, 1 chord, 5-7, another 5-7, and our 1 chord. So here's another theory insight. Melodies are almost always intricately connected to the harmony, and vice versa. Look at the right hand in measures 1 and 2. C, E, C, E, G, E, C, E. These are all chord tones and sound so pleasing to the ear, especially to unite them together as melody and harmony. Then look at measure 3. The right hand plays D and G, both members of the G chord, and an F on beat 3, hinting at the 5-7 chord, and back to D. And it continues this way throughout the piece. Let's look at the B section. There's something about the 5 chord that always wants to pull back to the 1 chord. There's no place like home, I suppose, as they say. So Mr. Czerny uses that tension to create a little suspense in measure 12. At the end of line 3, by holding on to the 5 chord with the fermata. So here's line 3. Holding. We feel Feel the restless quality of the 5 chord that wants to move along. And that we do. Back to 1 in measure 13. I'll play the piece once through without repeats and talk about a few other elements. The first is articulation. Notice the varied staccato and legato touches. Staccato, legato, staccato, legato, staccato, legato, staccato. The B section starting with the 5 chord, forte, diminuendo, piano, expressive fermata. Return to the A section, staccato, legato, staccato, legato. A gentle close. Let's try a creative activity. With your left hand, play a C chord and hold the pedal down. Your right hand then can have fun on C, E, and G notes, those members of our 1 chord, our C chord. Noodle around a bit using those 3 tones, and when you feel ready, let's move on to our 5 chord. You can do that with the inverted 5 chord or our G chord. In our right hand, with a fresh pedal, we'll play our G, B, D notes. And when you're ready to go home, come to a dramatic pause on that 5 chord. Keep us in suspense, have a sip, check your watch. Then return with gusto to the 1 chord and bring it on home. End with tonic. Dare I say this? Yes, I do. The 1 chord and the 5 chord or 5/7 chord are the 2 major building blocks of harmony in Western music. Of course, there are many, many more, but these 2 are running the show most of the time in classical music. I can't wait to visit with you more about chords and scales and all things musical. See you next time.